everyone, welcome back to my channel, and if you're new, welcome. I'm Stefania. Today's video is gonna be a flip through. I'm gonna show you the pages that I've created in June. And first, as always, I'm gonna start from the yearly pages and then move to the monthly pages. However, since June was a super wonderful, incredibly month, and I've read a lot of books and I've almost loved them all, there's gonna be a lot in this video, so I've decided that for the yearly pages, I'm gonna go through them quickly. At the end of the day, they're the same pages that I've been using since the beginning of the year. You're just gonna see them being updated with the books that I've read in June. So I'm gonna try to just go through the pages without talking too much. So then there's gonna be enough time for all the books. I've added the books that I've read in June, and so you can see that there are a lot more books. Then I've updated this one with the books that I've read in June, and you can see that the majority of them are physical books, and this is wonderful because I basically went through all the books that I bought in May. Reading tracker, I've managed to read a little bit each single day, and there have been a few days in which I've read definitely a lot, because once I've read more than 200 pages, and for 2 days in a row I've read more than 300 pages, and this is crazy. These are the 8 books that I've read in June, and as you can see already from the stars here, I really had a wonderful month. Favorite of the month was 5 Survive. Favorite books, as you can see, I finally updated this page, or better, there was something to add, and it was 5 Survive, which was a 5 stars for me, and The Traitor Queen, which was another 5 stars. I've added here the books that I've read. Leggiamo con le streghe, Alpha Soul, and Cerbero Book Club, La Congregazione Reale di Sua Maestà. I am not sure about the title in English. I'm having a moment. Anyway, the cover is the same, so you can understand it. Series tracker, I've updated it with the books that I've read in June. Bingo, updated, don't ask me with what. With June, I've reached 33 books, and my goal is 50, so I'm getting closer and closer. Other challenges, I've updated the one for the author and for the title. Something changed also in the genre one, while the other one is still there where it was. I've updated both my genre tracker and my TBR. I'm extremely happy about my TBR because I started June with 10 books. I've added only 1 book, but I've managed to read 7 from my TBR, and so by the end of June there were only 4 books in my physical TBR, and I'm so happy about it. Reading stats. In June I've read 8 books, 1 ebook, and all the other 7 were physical books. 2,789 pages, I've read for 30 days. 2 books in English and 6 in Italian, and then as you can see the reading, it was a wonderful month because all the books were 4 stars or higher, so wonderful. And now we can move to the monthly pages. As always, you can find the plan with me online. I'm not gonna go through the reading stats because I've just said them, so it's quite stupid to go through them over again. Monthly view and reading tracker. As you can see, my monthly view was super full this month. I really don't know what happened. I've started a lot of books that were all amazing, and some of them, especially one, really I was really into it, that I basically started it one day and finished it the next day. I think these are the 2 days in which I've read, are the 2 days in which I've read a lot of pages, and I was just in love with that book. It was one of my 5 stars. reading tracker, I think it's crystal clear that was a wonderful month because not only I managed to read a little bit each single day, but most of all, there are so many days in which I've read more than 100 pages. Like, completely weird for me, especially because it was June. I usually don't have so much free time in June, July, and August, so I always read less books in these months, but I guess that the fact that the weather wasn't really that lovely, June was quite different, because usually during June, yes, I have free time and I spend it gardening and things like that, while it was always raining this year, so I basically spent all my free time with books. Now I'm gonna go through the books that I read this month, and I'm gonna try to say just a few things about them without talking too much because I don't want to give any spoilers. I started this book in May and I wasn't so sure about it. I was like, who knows if I'm gonna like it or not. It was the one that got picked up by the book club, so I really wanted to read it, to talk about it. And then I ended up loving it. 4 stars. I loved the story, even if I'm not so sure about the ending, or better, I would say I was quite of shocked. Not because of the ending itself, but because I started this book thinking it was a standalone, which is not. So yeah, the ending wasn't what I was expecting it to be. I was like, okay, this is gonna be good, and then there's that last chapter and goodbye standalone. I really love the fact that the book is going from a character to another, and I love the fact that the 5 main characters aren't all the same. They're so different one from another. I will read the second one. Maybe yes, maybe no. I'm still not sure about it, because even if I really liked this one so much, I'm not so sure I want to go back to these characters, I guess. Plus, thanks to the author, because the 3rd book is now coming out, or just came out, something like that. And on Instagram, there was the biggest spoiler ever in the caption. Like the very first sentence. So it's not like there was written something and then, oh, spoiler ahead. No. Something that spoiler so much, so much. And I'm a little bit disappointed about that. Anyway, I really loved this one. And when I reached that point in the story, I just couldn't put this book down. I wanted to know more. And it made me think a lot about how sometimes it's better if we don't know what's about to happen, because once we think about knowing the future, we try everything to change it, and then sometimes the actions that we think are gonna help us end up being what are gonna, let's say, destroy us. So I definitely loved this book. Alpha Soul, 4 stars. I really enjoyed this book. There wasn't so much going on. Like, yes, some things were going on, but it wasn't so full a story. Like, yeah, I can't say it's a cozy one where basically nothing happens, but I can't even tell you that there was so much going on at the same time. But I still can say that I really loved it. I think what I loved the most is the main character, because Dora is so different from other characters that we're used to seeing in books. I think it's so funny the fact that she's missing half of her soul, and so she's always thinking, maybe I should act like this because this is what they're expecting from a normal person, but I'm not. And I really enjoy most of all seeing her when she's not overthinking, when she's just fully being herself, when she's not thinking, what should I do now? Like, if somebody else would be where I am right now, what would that person do? And instead, when she just let it go of it all and she just is so spontaneous, I absolutely adore her. I had a blast reading a lot of her channels. It was so funny. I definitely found it a wonderful book, and I would say I quite expected it to end in a certain way, But the thing that I love is that at the end of the day, this book teaches you to also love yourself for who you are and stop trying to be somebody that you're not. I absolutely loved it. Five survive, okay. I think it's crystal clear. I love Ollie Jackson's books. She is amazing. I've read everything by her because, spoiler, in July I read her latest book and I loved that one just as much. Five Survive, I couldn't put this book down. Like, I was constantly thinking, what's going to happen now? I need to know. And it's weird because usually I'm not a fan of these books that, let's say, have a short amount of time into them. Like, the whole story takes place in less than 24 hours. And I was thinking, okay, this is gonna get boring. Like, it's gonna get too much, you know? Like, oh, can you see something? Oh, can you see characters changing? Things like that. Instead, I was in love with this book. I couldn't put it down. I was making my theories up. Some of them were right, some others no. And then if there's one thing I've learned from Ollie Jackson is that her titles, they always mean something. Always. She's not somebody who's gonna name a book in a way that's gonna be like just a title with no meaning at all. So I already had a feeling just by reading the title about what would have happened. What I was hoping for happened. Like, I was so happy with this book from the very beginning to the very end. The main characters, Red is definitely... It's incredible to read the story, being in her mind, how she is like in this situation in which they're about to die, they're scared and all, yet she's like losing herself by looking at things around her and losing herself in details while nobody's paying attention to her. I absolutely loved her so much. This is definitely a book that I couldn't put down, and I think it's perfect for these people that want to do these challenges, like read 5 books in 5 days or 7 in a week, or they are like a little bit behind with their goal for the year for how many books they want to read. I think this is perfect because it's not too long, but most of all, it's really a catch-up one. Like, you're gonna start reading it and you can't put this book down. I can't tell you that. It's like a drug, whether you like it or not. You're gonna start and you will not be able to put it down. I absolutely loved it. I'm so happy that I finally managed to read it because I was so happy. And I think that Ollie Jackson's books are gonna be my Insta buy even in the future, which technically is what I've done because after 5 Survivor I've also had her newest book because I had to. Have I read the plot of that one before buying it? Absolutely no. Just the fact that it was by Ollie Jackson was more than enough for me to buy it. Loved it. 5 stars, my favorite book of the month. Then I've started The Bridge Kingdom and then I moved straight to the second book because I bought them. They were on a situation in which there was this big discount, so I bought them both for 20 euros. So 10 euros each single book, and it was an hardcover. I was like, okay, I can't wait anymore because I've heard so many good things about these books and I want to know if I'm gonna like them or not. The first one, I really loved it. I enjoyed it so much. I think I've seen the characters growing throughout the pages and I absolutely adored this thing. But most of all, there's one thing. This one was a 4 stars and half because there were moments in which I was like, oh, okay. I don't know, part of me was like expecting something more. The only thing that quite have left me a little bit down and you can say, are you disappointed in that? Yes, but not like that big thing to take off something from my readings. So even if this thing wasn't missing, I would have still gave 4 stars and half to the book. It's the map. I don't know if in the original version there's a map, but in the Italian one there is not a map, and I was having a few problems here and there sometimes, understanding where they were planning to go. I would have really loved to have the map, but I absolutely loved it, and once I finished it, I couldn't stop. I had to start the second one like in that exactly moment, and it's what I've done. The Traitor Queen was the second book, and I've started it like in the moment in which I've closed the first one. I just got up, took the second, opened and started it. I just couldn't wait. I'm not gonna talk too much about this one because it would be quite a spoiler for the first one, but there were some things that let's say I've seen them coming, but other than that, I was really, really into the story. 5 stars. I was this much into the story that I just couldn't stop reading it. I wanted to know what would have happened after it, and then while in the first one you can see the characters grow a little bit more, here I would say the whole focus is mainly on the plot, so the story is what really take you fully into the book, and I just loved everything. But I would have really loved the map even here, because I just couldn't understand where they were supposed to be, and once they were starting to move to another place, I was like, okay, but where, how, help me! But other than that, I really loved it. 5 stars. I know that this is a series, but I also know that the first 2 books are like together, while in the third book the main characters are gonna change, so I'm perfectly fine with having to wait for that, and I am pretty sure I'm gonna read even the other books, because this really, really, really got me. I absolutely loved this one a little bit more than the previous one, but I loved them both. Then it was time for Burning Crowns. I loved it, yes, 4 stars. Before I say anything about this book, I just wanted to let you know that if in case you've missed it, there's a video on my channel which is a review one. So in that video you can see me creating this spread while I say what I have to say about this book. But, big but, my book reviews always have spoilers. So if you only want to see the video of me creating these pages without knowing anything, you can still do it by turning off the volume. But if you don't want any spoiler, just do it in that way. If instead you've already read the book or you're fine with getting any spoilers at all, then you can go and check it out, because I talk a lot about this book. Well, I can't talk a lot about this book here because it's the third one in the Twin Crowns series, and it will be a spoiler for the previous 2 books, but I definitely loved it. What I love the most is seeing Rose and Vren has 2 twin sisters who are actually so different one from another. I've said this already in the second book. While in the first book they were quite of, I don't know, I wouldn't say they were the same, but they would like stand out as we have a lot in common. Now it's more like they are really 2 different people, like they are so different one from another for real, and I love that. I think that Vren is the one that got me again the most, because I've really seen her through the 3 books going through so much and fighting mainly to understand who she actually is and what she wants, because if you've read the books you know that she is where she is, but it wasn't like her original plan. It was a dream of somebody else. I really loved this one. 4 stars. Then it was time to move again to the Stone Here series, and this time I can say I liked this one more compared to the first book. When I've read the first one, I've said, you know what, yes, it's not bad, but the first part is quite boring. If it would have all been like, let's say, the last few chapters, it would have been so much better. This time, I wasn't disappointed, because first of all, if you read the Folk of the Air series, we're gonna see some characters here again, and there is this character that I just couldn't stand already in the 3 books there, which is here again, and this time again I just can't stand her. And it's not Jude, it's her twin sister. I just can't stand her. While finding again Jude and Colin and everybody else was lovely, Hook this time is definitely more in the book. Like in the first book, I was seeing more of Ren and less of Hook. He appeared as a liar, as a person that I wouldn't want nothing to do with. While in this one, his character is definitely seen in a different way. Like, it's deeper. Like, we can see why he does what he does, what he doesn't want. Like, we get to know him a little bit more, which is definitely a lovely thing, because yes, it was something that was missing in the first book. So I really enjoyed reading more about him. I think I loved it again. Absolutely, yes. 4 stars. This book luckily wasn't one that was like, hey, read me. And then I was like, okay, you've disappointed me. Instead, this time he was like, I'm here. If you want, read me. I've done it. And I was like, you know what? I've liked you. Last book of the month was Where the Dark Stands Still. Here's the thing about this book. When I started it, I wasn't so sure about it, because it made me think a lot about a book that I read last year that everybody was like loving, and it was the first one of a series, and I was like, oh yes, I want to read it. And I was also thinking of already starting the second and then the third one. Instead, I read the first one. I was like, okay, this was boring. I'm disappointed. Like, why? How? And when I started this book, I was getting the same vibes at the beginning. I was like, okay, this scares me. First of all, because this book wasn't a cheap one and I bought the physical copy. And second, because I truly was thinking I would have loved it. So I was like a little bit scared at the beginning. Then I kept on reading it, but in this one, not like in the other one, in this book, I've started loving it even more because things were happening. There's a story, you can follow it, and I just loved it. I found so many wonderful parts in this book. There were so many quotes that I loved, and I was like, okay, I have to write this down somewhere somehow, because this book at the end really got me, and I've ended up loving it, and it got 4 stars and half for me. I really enjoyed it, and the end, I think I was a little bit shocked because I wasn't expecting it. I guess there's a reason behind it, but I'm not gonna explain what I mean, because that's where it would be a big spoiler. But I just wanted to let you know that even if at the beginning I wasn't so sure about it, I've ended up loving this book so much. So these are the books that I've read in June. Let me know with a comment if you read them or not, if you're planning on reading them, because as you know, I'm always curious. As always, thank you so much for your support. If you've enjoyed this video, remember to subscribe for more videos like this one. Thank you so much for your support. See you next time. Bye!